Welcome to this week's Founder Focus segment, where we dive into the inside stories behind some of the most impressive entrepreneurial journeys. Founder Focus takes us on an intimate conversation with innovators and entrepreneurs and the great companies they built. This is Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures, and thanks for joining us. This week, I'm excited to welcome our guests, Steve Southin and Brian Steinhauser, who serve as co-CEOs of Toronto's Discovery Loft. These guys have an incredible story to share with us today. Before Discovery Loft, Brian had a ton of corporate experience, decades of executive sales and brand strategy, with experience working with several Fortune 500 brands, including TD Bank, Samsung, Toyota, and Magna. Steve came to the company with over 25 years of automotive retail and wholesale experience. He also had 15 years of technical and startup expertise as he gained as an auto technology entrepreneur, with his second recent successful exit being the Bumper app he brought to market in 2012 and successfully exited through an acquisition in 2017. So with that, let's welcome the guys to the show. Steve and Brian, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So,
being here.
So guys, let's backtrack a little bit. I mean, you guys have a very interesting joint history. So let's talk about sort of like how you guys met and what was the spark that started the company.
Well, Steve and I have known each other, I guess, for about 8 years now, maybe even 9. And we've worked on and off together on certain projects and aspects of business opportunities. And we knew that at one point we'd want to get together. And in 2017, when Steve exited his last product, we saw that opportunity. So that's when we decided to join forces, and we incorporated Discovery Loft. So that was really the beginning. And Steve can take you into how PAVE came about from that.
Brian and I were very fortunate that, we bought ourselves a year basically of being able to just sandbox ideas, really get intimate with potential clients and partners and understand their problems better, and give us, an opportunity to come to them with, the concepts that we were working on and seeing where are we heading in the right direction, where are we heading in the really wrong direction, and steer our bigger vision from there. And that's really where PAVE came about for us in a big way.
Great. So tell us a little bit about PAVE.
PAVE came about because we really looked at transforming the auto industry in one little piece at least, and the piece around detection and inspection was something that this wasn't seeming to work very well. And Steve had a lot of experience in that side of the business. So we did a proof of concept around PAVE. We went to Digital Dealer and we had 2 little posters, and we were inundated with 200 or 300 people in our booth all weekend long. So we knew we were onto something. And that really is what really PAVE was born from.
That's great. So what does the app do?
So in a nutshell, PAVE needed to do 2 things really well. Needed to provide a user experience of how to capture a vehicle without all of the restrictions we currently were facing, like having to download an app or any of that fun stuff. So that was a big challenge just in the UX of that piece. PAVE really right now is a super simple process where a consumer or a person at your retail location can easily just walk around a vehicle, capture 13 photos. They're guided to do that. It actually works in your browser. So you click a link, it takes you to the PAVE camera that walks you through the process. You capture your photos, and at the end of that journey, you're done. But PAVE in the background is actually taking all those photos, captured all of the data points off the vehicle, understands what the vehicle is, and then does a full analysis on here's all the cosmetic defects that really do impact the overall value, but more importantly, the actual grading of the car. So now in a simple 3 to 5 minute process, both parties are in a very transparent, understanding position. The most important person in that equation is the buyer. Now they can actually either get really excited about that vehicle, pay more, right, and get a car for inventory, or better, get a customer and a car, or they really can now understand their exit strategy. Like this Q7 really doesn't meet my group standard. It's not a CPOable unit. I have to exit this in another channel. which also helps them get to a really quick understanding of what should I put in this vehicle. That's the nutshell of the whole product.
So there's debate around whether entrepreneurs are born or made over time. I know you guys have had a personal experience with a whole slew of entrepreneurs. When you look back on your lives, do you consider yourself to be entrepreneurs that were born, or did that develop over time? And I guess a follow-up, when did you know personally that the entrepreneurial path was right for you?
Well, for myself, I think it's a combination of both. At least it was for me. For me, it was at an early age, my mother passed away. My father was just beginning to start a business. He's an entrepreneur, always built his own business. And so for me, it was looking at him and seeing, he worked really, really hard. But from that also, he also was the boss, and it was different back then. But, I just saw the hours he put in, but he also reaped rewards out of that. And when I after my mother passed away, I lived with my cousin for a short time. There was a golf course across the street. And at 9 years old, the two of us would go dig out golf balls out of the ponds, get full of like really smelly muck. But we'd sell them all weekend and we'd make a ton of money. Like I made more money when I was 9. I never made that kind of money until I was 16 again. So that for me was that golden nugget that said, wow, if you work really hard at this, you can really do well, and it's it's not that hard to find that avenue if it's in you. So that's sort of how I got there.
Cool, Steve.
So yeah, can you be born an entrepreneur? I'm pretty convinced the answer to that is no, and it really comes down to, as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be very good when you first start as an entrepreneur, and you're going to make some seriously bad mistakes. You're going to make some people think that you're a little bit crazy because you went down that path in the first place. And it really is a matter of, are you a generalist? Because you're going to have to be. And the most important piece is, how do you bend your personality type to suit the stage that you're in, right? Like at the very beginning, you're going to be a lone wolf. You're going to be super lonely. That's perfect for those type A's who aren't very extroverted. But at some point, once you finish publishing that book, you're allowed to be that introvert the whole time you're writing. For 6 months, you're just going to be there typing and not getting anywhere. But at some point, you're going to have to get out there and get that book known and get it on the bestseller list and all of that. And that's going to require a completely different personality type. So are you the type of person who doesn't just rest on how you were born, but actually work with who you are, understand your limitations really well, so you can figure out how to backfill, what do I need to do to get to this next type of me that I need to be to get to where my vision needs to go.
So it seems like Hollywood romanticizes the entrepreneurial journey and makes out these entrepreneurs to be almost like superheroes. But as you guys have both said here, it's not always an easy path. What was the hardest decision you had to make as an entrepreneur?
Getting back up from failing, probably. There's mistakes, but then there's also, there's not many entrepreneurs that make it the first time around all the way, and so you're gonna go down a journey where you have failures, and those failures, for me anyway, I think you have to, like I said, dust yourself off. It's a major mistake because you have to start over. So I think that's something, it's a learning experience, but you have to decide, are you going to do that again? And being an entrepreneur, you always say yes to that. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
For me, it's, the first time, it's easy to jump right in. There's so much, you've got so many fantasies in your head of how great this is going to be, and you just jump in and you move forward and hopefully you have success. For me, the hardest decision of an entrepreneur was to do it the third time, right? Do I take everything that I worked for, put all of that into this, not knowing, and you're really taking a cliff jump? Am I willing to lose this executive job that I've gained over the years with the security and jump and do it again? But now, eyes wide open, that's a very difficult decision to make.
That's great. So it sounds like you guys are pretty much mid-journey right now with PAVE currently. But as you reflect back, on this current journey that you're on, what's the highlight so far of this journey?
For me, it's actually something I wasn't expecting, and that's really the, one watching what you create provide the ability for your team you're creating to really unlock their own personal potential. To watch these people start with you maybe in a very low position and see how the organization you've created has allowed these people to really grow in a whole new space that would never have been a career path for them. But because of the environment you created, they get to get their hands dirty, start to enjoy it, start to show signs of where they want to go next. And you literally, over a 3-year period, we've had so many stories of watching these people grow. To me, there's no better reward.
Yeah, I agree. Starting with 0 and then building something, I think that's the highlight and even if it's in the end, if it's not successful, you've still tried your hardest and you've had this journey with other people and everybody's gone, has followed and really given their all to it. And that's really a real highlight. And I think it's a growing experience for everybody.
Cool. Well, Steve, Brian, thanks for joining us today. That's it for this week's Founder Focus, our dive into the inside stories behind some of the most impressive entrepreneurial journeys. Please feel free to contact me anytime. I look forward to catching up with you to discuss the industry. Thanks for tuning in for this week's Founder Focus, and we'll see you next week.